We are about to have a conversation about one of the most shocking crimes imaginable. 3 years ago, there was a little girl named Keira who suffered a terrible fate. She was killed, and the murderer was her father, who did it as an act of revenge. Keira's mother and stepfather, Jennifer Kagan and Philip Viater, are joining us tonight to tell us about the legal reforms they have pursued around domestic violence in hopes that no other family will have to experience what they have. Jennifer, Philip, thank you for coming in tonight. It's good to meet you both. I want to start as we take a look at a couple of pictures of Keira. Tell us what she was like.
So Keira was a really bright and spunky little 4-year-old girl. She was smart, she was outgoing, she was very generous. She loved her little brother, loved her friends. But in the backdrop of all of that was a very terrible situation in the sense that she was experiencing unsafe contact with her father and, of course, suffering the emotional, psychological ramifications from that.
Was she, generally speaking, a happy kid?
I mean, in our care, she was very happy. You know, of course, there were a lot of issues when she came back from Dad's, a lot of emotional, psychological trauma and things that she was experiencing that, of course, you know, fell on us as well. But when she was with her friends, when she was at school, she loved it. She loved her school. She loved her teacher. She loved to sing. She loved to dance. She was a very vibrant child.
I hate like hell to have to ask this next question, but you know it's coming, so we've got to go back to those events of 3 years ago and how you got the news about what happened that day.
Yeah, and I mean, it's, you know, it's tough to even think about. It's tough to remember that time, you know, police officers coming to my door, letting us know that, you know, Keira and her father were found dead at the base of a cliff in Rattlesnake Point in Milton. You know, just the worst possible news that any parents want to receive. You know, I don't have more to say about it other than that, you know, we had been screaming and shouting from the rooftops for years that this man was a danger, a real monster who should not have been having unsupervised contact with Keira, and yet, you know, judges were putting her into his care, child protection workers were failing her. This, you know, was not a surprise. But yet, you know, the worst, most devastating news parents can receive about a little girl.
Philip, when that news came to you, I mean, the bodies were found, the body of her father and she were found at the bottom of this cliff. What did you two think had happened?
Well, I knew right away what had happened. Actually, when Jennifer got the news, she was kind of waking up because the police had actually called me first and said at the time Keira and her father were missing, and I told them they're not missing. He either kidnapped her or worse. And it was at that point that that I already knew what was going to come about. And
because initially I mean, you tell me, but my recollection is there was no indication that the immediate analysis by the officials involved was not necessarily murder-suicide, right? Bodies were found, that was it.
Yeah, so at the time that their bodies were found, the police officers didn't actually know the background about what was occurring. I had to fill them in. And it was once I had filled them in that they said, okay, now we have to actually do a fulsome investigation. Because in the history of Rattlesnake Point, where they were found, there's never been a child who was found deceased, and there's definitely never been two people who simultaneously fell to their deaths at Rattlesnake Point, quote, accidentally. So that was at that point where things started to shift.
So when you say you knew right away foul play had taken place, you jumped to that conclusion because, why?
Well, Robin Brown was somebody who...
This is the dad.
This is the dad who had a history of violence, who had a history of coercive and controlling behavior, and his behavior was escalating up until this point. And up until this point, what had occurred was we actually brought an emergency motion in court to suspend or supervise his parenting time. And the judge adjourned that for several weeks to allow the Child Protection Agency to investigate, and indicated that they should step in if they found anything problematic. And so by that point, they had actually released to us their notes that it expressed serious concerns over him. And at that point, we were supposed to return back to court. So this was his last weekend with this child before what we pretty much knew was going to be his cessation of parenting time. And so when we've put all the pieces together and now they're found dead at the base of the bottom of a cliff, it is right in line with the domestic homicide timeline as to when this would occur.
Jennifer, I'm sure you've thought about this question over and over and over, and I don't know if you've ever come to any sort of satisfactory answers in your mind, but I'm going to ask you anyway, because to me it's inexplicable. How can a father murder his daughter?
Yeah, and I mean, you can't make sense of the senseless because you don't have the mind of a monster, Steve, right? This is somebody that doesn't have the love for a biological child, that sees the child more as an object and you know, as almost like a possession. And so out of revenge, this person harms and kills the child to get back at the former partner, namely myself, for leaving. It's very much a psychopathic, you know, mind of a monster. And because, you know, you don't have that mind, you can't make sense of it. But this is textbook. You know, in Canada, 30 to 40 children a year are killed by a parent. There have been...
Say that again.
Yeah, in Canada,
30
to 40 children per year are killed by a parent. So these numbers are staggering. I mean, even one case is too many. This is called revenge filicide. You know, organizations are tracking these murders, these child murders, often occurring you know, in the context of child custody litigation. In the United States, for example, an organization called the Center for Judicial Excellence tracks these children killed in the context of domestic violence and child custody litigation. And I believe it's almost 900 kids that have been killed by a parent since 2008. This is, you know, we're seeing more and more of these cases in the news, these revenge filicides. So in addition to violence against women and you know, domestic homicide being a huge public health emergency, we're also looking at children being killed. And I mean, if you had asked me 10 years ago, would I ever think that I would find myself in this situation? I never would even know, I would never think about it, you know, and yet here I am. It's wild.
Again, I know you sort of play the events back in your mind to see if, you know, was there a moment where I could have intervened and maybe changed the course of history. All parents do that regardless of what happens with their children. You and he obviously had a terrible relationship. You had your moments. You had plenty of reason to fear for yourself. Did you have any cause to fear for your daughter's safety, though, along the way?
Absolutely. This is textbook domestic violence case, coercive control case. So when you look at the phenomenon of coercive control, which I was a victim of, you know, a pattern of harm, threats, intimidation, punishment, you know, getting me to fear or retaliate against me for not complying with his demands. When you have someone that's threatening you, threatening the child, you know, putting a tracking device on me, monitoring me, you know, I'm someone to be controlled. This is a very characteristic situation in which these domestic homicides and revenge filicides occurs. So I was you know, expressing that throughout, that this man, very, very dangerous, real monster. And moments aside, I mean, you know, when you're a victim in that situation, you're aware of the danger that you face. And this was a textbook case, really.
Now, Philip, you're a lawyer in real life. You're a family lawyer in real life. And you, so I've got a legal question here, which I'm going to put to you. Jewish Family and Child Services is a social services organization in this city. And you two are taking legal action against them. Explain why.
So they had a duty to protect our child, Keira. In fact, not only did they have the duty to protect our child, they were in court when we sought the adjournment, and they were in court when the judge had specifically tasked them with protecting Keira. There was even an endorsement that said they have their eyes and ears to the ground, so they need to step in.
And why are they a party in any of this to begin with?
Well, because there are child protection concerns with regards to Keira. So they were tasked with investigating.
Tasked by whom?
Well, I think it's just their mandate once a concern is raised. And so we had many issues with them hiring workers who lacked the necessary training. But in the end, there was actually an experienced worker, and she had called us on the Friday before her death. And she said, I met with Mr. Brown, and he's displaying behavior consistent with somebody who harms or kills their own child. I've spoken to my supervisor about commencing a protection application. She said, we're going to talk Monday, and he killed her on Sunday. And at that time, when she had suspected that he was capable of doing something like this and had formed those concerns, it was their mandate to step in. And by not doing so, they were entirely negligent. The danger doesn't just go away because it's the weekend. And this was his last weekend before return to court. This was the most dangerous time to keep this child in his care. And our hands were tied because there was a court order that he was to be with her that weekend, subject to them stepping in, which they didn't do.
And what is the status of the lawsuit at the moment?
Well, like all lawsuits, they drag on. We think that they're dragging this case on a little bit longer than it needs to go, but...
Are you in court yet?
Oh yes, we're in court. There's discovery scheduled, and we'll see what happens from there.
Okay. Jennifer, this is the worst imaginable tragedy that could ever happen to any parent, and I think we all need a better understanding of how you make the decision to take your anger and pain and channel it into something constructive, as opposed to, which would be completely understandable, never leaving home and sitting there on the floor in the fetal position and just giving up on life. How do you do that?
So, I mean, when this occurred, we didn't want what happened to Keira to be buried. I mean, our child has been basically thrown away like a piece of garbage, I'll put it to you like that. Without shining a light on what's happened, it's a further disrespect and disregard of her. So there's the one piece we need to make sure that she remains, her memory remains alive, and that she remains as a beacon of protection for other children. But moreover, looking at that need for accountability. So if this is shoved under the rug, then nothing's going to change, right? And there are many other children in this country who are in similar situations. When we came forward, we received messages from coast to coast of individuals who were just appalled at what happened to Keira and said, there needs to be change here because my child's in danger. My child is psychologically being harmed and physically being harmed, and nobody is taking action. So it's very unfortunate that the burden to enact that change fell onto us, but life is what it is, and you can't change society. So we said, with what's happened to us, we're going to speak publicly about this and, try to drive change and accountability so that this doesn't happen to another child or family.
But how do you even know where to begin? I mean, change is necessary, but what kind of change? Who needs to change? What institutions need to change? How do you begin to figure that out?
Absolutely, and I think with Philip's work in the family courts, we have the benefit of him being on the ground to have a real sense that in addition to the major systemic failures in our case, there are failures for other families as well, and what's actually going on the ground. I spoke to people who reached out to me to hear what was happening in their case when survivors of violence were reaching out from coast to coast to say, I'm going to talk with them, I'm going to learn and hear what's going on, and you hear the same things over and over and over and over. And when that's happening, it's a major systemic issue. So looking at, particularly in the area of domestic violence, so looking at that education and training that people have in the system around, domestic violence, coercive control, and risk of lethality and harm to children and women in these types of situations. I mean, you don't have to go any further than turning on the television to realize there's a huge domestic violence epidemic in this country. A woman is killed somewhere in Canada every other day on average. These are making the headlines again and again and again, and yet action is not being taken largely by governments, by systems, institutions to try to better protect these vulnerable individuals.
So Philip, you two have decided to focus on judges and the way judges are educated. Why that?
Judges are the final gatekeeper. When all is said and done, when there's any failure, in the end, it's the judge who makes the final decision. And in order to effect a culture shift and significant and meaningful change, you have to start with who's the end, what's the end goal? So the end is the judges. And so the focus right now is on judges, because we had 10 judges involved in our case who all could have protected Keira. And so once we get them trained, what we find is the rest kind of follow suit, because there's more than judges that are involved. By the time I get to a judge, there's multiple people who have their hands kind of on a file.
But what has been the issue in terms of judges' training that you feel has been inadequate to this point?
I don't feel that they've actually been trained in the areas of intimate partner violence. So just by way of example, when we went to the Canadian Judicial Council that advertises all of their training courses made available to judges, I found that in 7 years they offered one course on intimate partner violence, and that was to the Atlantic judges. And so I'm finding that there was very little training that's being offered, including ongoing training. And meanwhile, in 2021, we had changes to the Divorce Act where judges are now mandated to consider intimate partner violence and coercive control as part of a best interest analysis of a child. And yet, I said, but where's the education so that they understand what that looks like in the year 2023? Because what we're actually finding is they're using a lot of old, outdated myths and stereotypes, and they're looking for black eyes and bruises. And anything non-physical is pretty much being ignored as two parents who don't get along. And without recognizing those warning signs, I'm finding systemic failures.
You, Jennifer, managed to do something which is pretty rare and extraordinary, which is you managed to get a bill through Parliament with all party support. Not an easy thing to do. Bill C-233. It's called an Act to Amend the Criminal Code and the Judges Act regarding violence against an intimate partner. Okay, what the amendments that you managed to get through, what would they do?
Thank you, Steve. So essentially, the amendments we managed to get through, or the bill rather we managed to get through, pertains to the education and training of federally appointed judges. So it will ensure that federally appointed judges are educated on intimate partner violence and coercive control, which will save lives.
That's the federal parliament. You've also taken your efforts to Queen's Park. What are you trying to do there?
Yes, so very similarly, at Queen's Park, contained within Bill 102 now, provincially appointed judges will also be educated in domestic violence and coercive control if that bill passes, which it looks like I suspect it will.
You have all party support for that as well?
I'm not sure. I presume there would be on the education and training, related to domestic violence.
Right?
Exactly. I mean, it's not a political issue, and elected officials seem very keen to do better in this area for women and children. So I suspect it will. And the other piece around the Queen's Park is that we have MPP Triantafilopoulos who put forward a motion moving towards educating not only judges but also children's aid workers, custody assessors, Office of the Children's Lawyer, Crown attorneys. So it will move towards educating not only, as Phil say, the final gatekeeper, but also other family law professionals who are very important in their role as well.
What have I've talked to people who have spent literally decades trying to get things they care about through Parliament or Queen's Park and have never been able to, right? They just, for whatever reason, it hasn't happened. And you have embarked on this quest and looks like you're going to be 2 for 2. What have you learned about how politics works and the art of the possible?
Yeah, so I think nothing's more powerful than, the power of a mother who's lost a child. I think bereaved mothers can move mountains, and through that love for their child, it's what motivates them, and they want to see change. So Keira, of course, has driven all of this, and it's through love for her and Keira's desire to change the world. But in terms of the learning around politics, I mean, I think that we've been able to work with some really fantastic members of Parliament, members of provincial Parliament, who really want to see change. And I think presenting things, not coming at everyone as we're angry, which of course we are, disgruntled, but rather let's see how we can improve things for others. Let's see how we can, use this as an opportunity to make things better and drive these particular changes. And I think there's been a real willingness. And of course, once the ball gets rolling, I think, you can get that ball rolling faster. You can get that train moving down the track through just talking to people and, connecting.
Well, here's what the Office of the Attorney General of Ontario says about you too. And Sheldon, I'll ask you to bring this graphic up and I'll read along for those listening on podcast. After losing her daughter to intimate partner violence in February 2020, Jennifer and her husband, Philip Viater, set out to ensure that a similar tragedy does not happen to any other child or family. Through her advocacy, Jennifer sends a message to victims of intimate partner violence that they are not alone. She has been a strong voice in calling for policy and legislative change to better protect victims of domestic violence in the legal and child protection systems. Jennifer has been honored with a Queen's Platinum Jubilee Community Service Award and received a Spirit of Barbara Schleifer Award in 2022. That's from the AG of Ontario. That's not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad, yeah. All right, let's finish up on this. What is the... You're not done. I can sense this, right? This is a mission that you are on now. What's the next obstacle to overcome?
Yeah, I mean, and this is a marathon, not a sprint. I mean, the domestic violence crisis is very real and present, and you know, it's a public health emergency, and additional measures need to be put in place. So I think evaluating the effectiveness of this legislation and continuing to speak with survivors on the ground around what outcomes are they experiencing in the courts will be key, right? We need to make sure not only was the legislation passed, but how effective is it, and are changes occurring? You know, there's a myriad of measures that need to be put in place to better protect victims of domestic violence, and we're going to continue to see what else needs to be done and to follow that through.
Excellent. Jennifer, Philip, thank you so much for coming into TVO tonight. We're grateful for your time.
Thank you very much for having us.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.